One would have thought she had it all figured out, very cautious, well-mannered, principled, respects boundaries and loves to love. Well, all of this was a very concluding assumption any average person could make about her. Anna was quite the lady, young and getting it. From her aura, appearance, the way she talks and commands respect, it was very right to assume this about her. Her smile stole moments and struck the hearts of her admirers. Well, she was of that suitable age to welcome suitors, but these were the least of her worries. Anna had never thought or seen herself settle down just yet. She was career-filled and had given up on commitment to any relationship due to her experiences. She built a wall around herself very synonymous to that of Jericho. No man could penetrate. Myself and myself alone, she said to herself, as she stormed out of her cheating fiancé's house. It was an event Anna could never bring herself to forgive. Having dealt with PTSD, she found herself back to square one. Anna was emotionally destabilized. She lost her job and was bedridden for months. Anna gathered all the courage and strength left in her to get over that ordeal, a lie she told herself but promised herself she was done with men but still so full of hope. How can this be my life? She thought to herself, the irony. To others, Anna was every man's dream partner. To Anna, she never even saw men or recognized their approach. Her walls were built with irons because they stood firm and unmovable. Anna stared at the painting hanging beside that of her mother's, as the lights of the room reflected on the painting, capturing and engrossing Anna to its details. It felt like she was seeing it for the first time in 8 years. She studied the painting, tried to guess the colors that were mixed to achieve the particular shade. As she moved closer, stretching her hands to grasp a feel of the texture of the painting, her legs crossed each other, causing her to trip. She gained stability and a shattered painting on the floor. She moved closer, to pick up the already broken portrait of her mother. Gradually tears flowed as she stood crying, a relationship beyond repair, a family bond severed from a tender age. Anna wiped her tears, got a dustpan and swept it all into the trash can. She poured herself a drink, walked to the sofa and sank into thoughts. Widely spaced out were sofas made with leather, all cracked, showing the dark brown layer beneath, in which the leather was coated with. In the middle of the sofas was a wooden table which one could easily guess did not belong to this present age. Gently placed on top was a flower vase with scanty flowers and faded red roses which added little or no ambience to the room. Hanging on the wall were portraits of different kinds, belonging to Anna's father and mother, and the only portrait that stood out was the family's group picture which featured all Anna's sibling and parent except her father. The one and only picture that actually shows they were a family did not have her father in it. A facade, she whispered to herself. She noticed a big book sitting carelessly on the dining table. She stood up, moved closer to catch a good glimpse. Photo album was written boldly in front of the cover page. She smiled, picked it up and walked back to sit. She stared sadly at the album and gently wiping the dust off. She remembered the stories that surrounds each pictures as she glanced through. She opened the 5th page and bursted into laughter. It was a picture of her sitting with a big overly sized dress and smiling broadly at her cake. Oh yes! It was my 16th-year-old birthday and I wanted a birthday party badly, she said amidst her laughter. I am very sure if I still had this dress, it would be my perfect size now. Laughing harder, she took a deeper look at the picture, gently smothering the picture. She remembered when her mother got the dress for her. It was of course a very bad day for her. She never would have thought her mother would get a dress that ridiculously big for her and not just on any day on her birthday. She immediately showed her disappointment in the choice her mother made for her. Anna's mother tried everything she could to make her daughter believe the dress was gorgeous and well fitted not only on her but for the occasion as well. Oh, Anna! I have never seen you this beautiful, not like you aren't beautiful. My daughter is a beautiful girl, of course. But this dress magnified the beauty, she said, smiling. Anna knew those words were all nothing but lies and that her mother was trying to patronize her, thus glorifying the monster of a dress she called beautiful, that not only added to her looking disfigured but thought of the jest she would receive when her friends sees it on her birthday. She let out a loud scream and dashed straight into her room, crying loudly. Yes, she remembered that day vividly. It was her sweet 16th birthday. She smiled as she turned the pages. Her facial expressions got distorted as they were both good and bad memories detailed visually and made into a photo album. A particular picture struck her. the picture of her parents standing side by side with a very obviously coerced smile, but something felt very strange about the picture. There was a third person that looked very familiar to her, who of course one would never notice on a first or even second glance, but yes. She knew the face was very familiar and real. She gave the picture a very close and stern look and shouted yes. I knew she looked familiar. The picture featured a very unnoticeable lady with also a weird smile, very unwelcoming and evil, yes. The woman behind the very tragedy they all faced till date. She was there and has been there all along, Anna said to herself. That Friday, like every other Fridays, the school closing bell rang, every student dashed out excited, study hours were over. Anna walked and jiggled with her friends as they usually do together, all walking down a single pathway and bidding each other bye as they get to their individual bus stop. Anna said her goodbye to the last of the girls as she walked down. Her house was at the very end of the street and was secluded from every other house due to an unfortunate incident that occurred when she was a child. As she walked down, she hummed her favorite songs and hastened her footsteps. She suddenly came to an abrupt stop as she heard loud screams and shouts coming from no other place but her house. She was not sure of the sounds she was hearing. Her heart began to race rapidly due to the increase in the pitch of the voice she heard, which sounded similar to that of her mother's. She took to her heels, ran as fast as her legs could carry her. Her pace reduced as she approached closer and closer. I have had enough, she said to herself, thinking on what to do and how to act to whatever situation she would meet. The shouts and pitch increased more. She looked around, found a thin rod, picked it up and hurriedly went inside. Anna stood stunned. For a few seconds she froze. Forgetting her initial plan, she saw her mother, pinned under her father. Throwing slaps and punches was her father's favorite hobby, but this time he ensured his wife avoided none of his blows. Anna watched as her father furiously rained punches and blows on her mother. Her mother, trying hard to resist and defend herself with screams and shouts only. Anna caught a grip of herself. As she looked down she saw trails of blood that led to the spot her parents were. Tears trickled. She held the rod firmly, moving closer to her parent. She saw her mother covered in blood trying to resist her father's blows weakly. She raised the rod high and let it down. A cutting silence swallowed the scene as Anna stood there shivering in the pool of her own tears and in the pool of blood of whom was unknown. In shivers, she whispered, "Dad. Dad?" She shook his body and no response came from him. In fear, she shook her father fiercely and his body dropped with a loud thud on the floor. The body of her father laid there motionless, as blood circled on the floor. She lost grip and fell, crawled to her mother, shivering uncontrollably. She called out to her mother, "Mom! Mom!" No response came from her mother. She raised her shivering hands and juggled her mother, yet no response came from her mother. Anna let out a loud scream and dashed out of the house.